I've decided to do this the original way. I remember high school, 2007. I would look at myself and I was like, you know what? I want to start a band. I like rock music. I could probably learn to play the guitar. It's not that hard. I want to be in a band. And I remember being a part of that band. Sorry, being a part of the thought process behind that band. And I remember there was a guitarist that was in high school that my friend Jillian had known. His name was Joe. So, me being a literal eighth grader, I approached this junior in high school and was like, hey man, you want to be a part of my band? And he laughed and he was like, I'd love to see your band first before I would join something like that. And at the time, I didn't really take anything from it because it was like, of course, I was shooting for the fucking moon. What did I expect to happen? We ended up playing music together for the next couple years. And I remember there was this point in time in this conversation between me and him when I was in college, when I was, around doing odd jobs, before I had like really landed on a career decision. I remember Joe constantly talking to me about opportunities and this new gig and that, and we're going to do all of this. And while at the time, everything sounded beautiful to me, I recognize, as most adults do, that there comes a time where you have to take things a little bit more serious than you had before. I like to say to people that I don't pretend to be their savior, but I am. That's my that's my narcissistic flaw. I gotta have what I gotta have, and I gotta have it right now. Because I've always lived on an edge of survival. I've always lived on an edge of survival, and I tried so desperately to not do that as much when I got older. It's all about the next thing. Gotta have something coming, gotta have something on the horizon. Because if nothing's moving, that means that I am, in effect, the thing I chastise, which is lazy, unmotivated. I'm not the type of person who would sit there and play games all day and act like, oh, I just went for a job interview, da da da, this and that. No, as a matter of fact, in my personal life, I'm probably gonna be more employed this year than I have in the last couple years, and that's before the pandemic. I already got several weddings booked, which is a difference in my life, like that I don't even come to really understand, even as I'm telling this to you now. So I remember as going through high school and going through all the trials and tribulations that a kid should, that I was also being inflicted with a lot of generational trauma that I would say I would suggest or hope that most kids don't have to go through. And ever since I started realizing that, I said the one thing that I'm always going to do in any walk of life that I take, if I have the chance to, I am going to improve upon the experiences of the average person that runs into me because I know what it feels like to go through days where you don't have that experience. Then you get it and you want it. You want it more and more and more until it just doesn't feel the same no matter how brand new the experience is. There are ceilings for poor kids. Always been ceilings for poor kids. If you are on food stamps, I do not, and this happens, so this is obviously not a, I don't know, prescription for life, if we're going to call it that, but I don't need to be proper and correct in this current moment. And we'll get back to that, proper and correct. I am still that little kid. Everything that I have tried to achieve has just been for the little kid in me. I made a promise around that same high school time that I started to realize that shit was not going the way it was supposed to. And that, like, normal, I would want to say kids or anybody living a decent life, these are the things that they shouldn't have to go through. These are the things that kids. So if I'm not going to pry into all my students' lives, then I have to recognize that at any given time, any one of these kids is under the same scrutiny and type of household that I was. And therefore, my approach towards every kid should be like that. Because if they're in a great household with two parents and they've got love, then anything I'm going to do for them is going to feel normal. For the other kids, however, whatever I do for them is going to feel amazing. Because it's going to show them for the first time that there is indeed a woman, an adult that cares for them. The women that I have been around teaching have all unanimously, and it's not like I ask these questions. This comes up during work meetings and stuff. This isn't like out of the realm conversation when you get into a room full of teachers and you talk about your impact on your students. This always happens. I have gotten a general consensus that they don't see male teachers approach teaching the way that I do. And I think that self-inflicted trauma that most of my students have been forced to undergo. Yeah, and when I say self-inflicted trauma, you all know I'm talking about, like, having to pick up your brother instead of going on that date with that cute boy in 8th grade. Like, that type of, like, you have to give shit up because you can't do it. Yeah, hey, I really want to go on my senior trip, but we really don't have the money right now. Self-inflicted, you know. You didn't ask for this. Involuntary, if we want to even go it there. But some of it is voluntary because that's growing up. I made a promise in that same high school time that I was going to be sure not to ever again in my life, after I almost lost all my friends to it, not to lie for a cause that wasn't worth it again. You might be proud to know that I've kept that promise for now 14 years. And remember, that promise includes people like my dad, like, hey, you know, I really want to not make this a thing right now, but when I feel it, I'm going to express it. And if it come out wrong, then it come out wrong. But at least you can never say I never brought it up. If you think that this is going to be an admittance of, hey, I've actually been lying about that, no. These are all true things. I'm just monologuing a point that I have to make. my insecurity about what I do does not land in the hands of my audience. The reason why I choose to express these things to you guys is because if there ever comes a point where I do hit that 50K, 100K, 200K subscribers, we get a following going, shit's starting to churn out, people are starting to go in a certain direction and they starting to listen to me. There will be no time in which you will ever say, he never expressed where he wanted to go. I think that's one of the biggest things that really slipped by a lot of big creators today is that they've got no foundation. There's no, everybody says, oh, Jinxie streamed to one viewer and then blew up all of a sudden. It's like, there's no story there. There's not nobody needs a story. Robert Downey Jr. does not have the, and this goes into another thing about lying and The Rock and his whole history of how he became famous. I was living out my truck with $7, and it's like, you're skipping a lot of details there. No, I don't want you to think I've ever skipped a detail. There's no trust fund baby behind me. There's no sugar mama. There's no none of that. There's no dad. There's no mom. There's a little sister. No brother. It's just me. It's just me. And it's been just me for a long time. And that's why I'm super secure in knowing that I can say, hey, I'm really talented at this and I should get a bigger shot at it. Because I know what I've built because I've built it with my two hands. I'm not the one who gets the random offer to be in a certain place at a certain time. Every place that I've been able to tell you guys I've been has because I spoke up and said, hey, I can do this. This unfamiliarity thing doesn't click with me so often because once I'm in a room, people say, if you can't do it, could you learn it? Yeah, I got the mental acuity to pretty much pick up anything. I was helping with DOB construction training. Like I've been in the circles, I've been around the manual labor, the blue collar, sometimes even a little white collar, sometimes even a little black collar, if you know what I mean. But nobody ever looked at me different. I was always, even when I still, oh man, if you want to accelerate the timeline, I remember being in college getting ready to leave and I ran into one of my professors. I've had this professor on this stream. I ran into the professor and even though he couldn't give me the answers that I was really looking for as far as like other faculty staff, I was really trying to express something. Even he said at that time, I've never seen anybody approach music like you do. And we had this long conversation about family and like what's the next lead points and how I can improve off that, what he's seen of me. He follows me on Facebook. He's seen all the stuff he was talking. He was like, I'm really impressed, blah, blah, blah. But it felt like we were colleagues. And he brought that up during our conversation. You were one of the few students that it felt like you took this to like it felt like you was grown. How do I sit there and explain to him this story so he should support me? I don't want that for me because I've crafted everything with my own hands. I know in my heart of hearts that when I say something is good, it at least lends credence to we should give it a chance. Everybody in my life, whether good or bad, has always sat there in a room with me and is like, yeah, that's the guy. Which leads me to today. We're going to revisit the past a few times, but I have to keep you in the present so that way you know why we're bringing up the past anyway. I have wanted to stop streaming for a long time. Not because I don't like it. Not because it doesn't fill me with joy. I honestly get so excited when I start planning the show and I'm like, yo, this lead, and like I'll pick up on it on accident. Oh, right, I did mention that. This goes right back into it. So now I'll look at this up. And this was what I was supposed to do earlier. In order to engage people like that, the first thing I should have done was probably set up some type of recap system. We're in season 4. The amount of things that I've talked about in these last 3 years going on 4 is gargantuan. And the reason for that really does stem towards, hey, I wanted to cover everything that everybody else was covering at the same time as and putting my own influx and spin on certain thought pieces. Took a look at the live streamers, took a look at the video essayists, and I said, okay, combine the mediums, give somebody something that when they tune in, they're like, oh shit, what did I miss? They want to go back. So they'll definitely tune in for the next one, so forth and so forth. Treat it like TV. Treat it like TV. Be yourself. But if this was a broadcast with 25,000 people who just all for some reason found you randomly and were just like, you knew? Yeah, we all kind of fuck with the energy we saw on the YouTube. Like, go ahead, give us something. The stream wouldn't change. I wouldn't have to apply different thought to a larger audience. Everybody's seen me when I've gotten raids of 400, 500, 1,000. The stream don't change. I do the same intro off the top of the head for somebody rating me with 7 viewers is the same as left flank vets with 500. Like, it's all me. So at a certain point, I look at me and I say, well, why aren't I where I want to be? How much more work is there to do? How can I squeeze that in? How can I streamline this process so effectively I could talk on this platform for 6 hours and immediately pull out 4 segments, upload them throughout the next couple hours, and boom, people got a category of shit to watch. It's interacting with the chat. It's the same as the Suns, except it got a little black flavor to it. How the hell do you do that? Go back to the past. Not our first rodeo, right? Well, Paradigm, how'd you do it back then? Good question. For those of you who don't know, I was a YouTuber before YouTubers were called YouTubers. I've had a chat with my friend Julius, and we went over the deep history of what YouTube was growing into, and we were in those spaces of the game journalists and stuff. So when YouTube started to expand its creator options, we were some of the first picked because our videos, hitting 5K, 10K back then was insane. Like, people had to look for it. The algorithm was much different than it is today. People had to look for it. It was either viral or people were looking for it. A lot of things went to the wayside. It used to take me days to do a video. I would sit there and record everything. I would then chop it down, then take care of some of my college work, wake up the next morning, go to school, come back home, work on it a little bit more, college work, repeat the process until Thursday or Friday, upload it. Then I wanted to be more thematic with it, and I was going other places. I was doing ping pong tournaments. I was doing fighting game stuff. I was trying to organize tournaments. I had a job as a coach at the time, so we were traveling. All throughout that, I kept the YouTube channel going. Then one day, 2013, I find out I'm overworking myself. Turns out I was born with a condition known as atrial fibrillation. Yeah, those who go through episodes of atrial fibrillation will 110% have a 5 times more likely chance of having a stroke at any given time than the average person. Nice. Nice. We like that. We like that. I'm like, yeah, it happens, but then I usually take an Alka-Seltzer and a ginger ale. I sleep for a little bit in class because there was a class where I didn't have to be up. I let the person know I had heart palpitations. They was like, okay, whatever, fine. Let the teacher know. And then it would go away after I walked up a couple steps. I figured I had to get the heart moving or whatever, and it would reset. How many attacks of those have you had? There was been a period where like I would stay up till like 5 a.m., not get enough sleep, and it would happen. I'd wake up suddenly, and if I woke up too fast, the heart wouldn't catch up, so it would do it. How many attacks have those of you had? Well, by the time I was admitted to the hospital in 2013 for it, turns out I've had 52 episodes of AFib. 52, doctor looks at me, says we're going to put you on beta blockers because you should be dead right now. I spent up until 9 p.m., I think, or 8 or 9 p.m. in that hospital that day. I was there from 10 a.m. And all I could think about was, I got to go to work. I got to go to the kids. I got to see the kids. I got to go to work. I need the money. 8 or 9 rolls around, still going, still going, still going. I'm like, you know what? You put me on this shit that's supposed to slow my heart. And you know, you're going to do an EKG reading or whatever later. Please do me a favor and just, yeah, I'm just going to go home. Because if something happened, I'd rather be in the comfort of my own home. Went home, kept going. I'm like, oh shit, maybe I should just go back to the hospital. Oh shit, I've never had one that's lasted a whole day before. Maybe this is the one. Start overthinking it. About 30 minutes after that, it ends. And boy, if anybody with AFib ever tells you what it's like when an episode ends, it's like you feel your heart start getting back to normal and you feel the oxygen rush back to everything and your body kind of for a second. And you're like, oh shit, I could do anything. I can't feel my own heartbeat anymore. Finally, like. And I remember saying to myself, why was I so eager to get back to work? Come back, tell the kids what happened. Oh shit, are you okay? Of course I am. How are you guys though? Still remember the speech I gave to those same kids that same year, a month later. Because it happened in April. A month later, they're all starting to graduate. They're starting to cry. They're getting angry because they're going to be separated from their friends. I've seen this before. I've been through it. I've seen this before. I've seen this before. And I've seen when it goes unresolved, those feelings, I'm going to lose my friend. Everything's going to change. Everything. I've seen it create people who after high school still hung on to that. I'm going to stop it right there for you. I'm going to tell y'all about what a support system is and how y'all can still be a part of each other's lives. Yes, you will be separated. Yes, it will be a change that you probably aren't ready for. Yes, these are your best friends right now. Let's not pretend like y'all don't all live in the same location. And I gave him like more stuff and I went into the depths of like graduating. And as you become an adult, the losses you will take as time progresses. As I've shared on this stream, I've gotten replies back from those students after 10 years, 15. You were the guy. It was because of you I did this. It's because of you I did that. It was worth it. That was worth it because I built that. There were no other teachers in that building that wanted to do that. They self-admitted, like, you've been a great influence here. Let us invite you here. Here, you're always welcome here. I just told you guys about me going back to the last school I worked at. Everybody, oh, Marquise, I thought I was never going to see you again. Crying, thank you for coming to the... You think I give a fuck about that? Seeing them happy that I'm around is all I needed. Y'all still like me? Y'all still remember me? Did they ever tell you why I left? Did they ever tell you that I just left? Like, what, did you ever get the details or anything? Oh, I thought perception is reality. I know what it's like to be abandoned. I've had a group of kids in Bushwick that I remember, oh my God, I got hired and they were like, hey, you don't plan on leaving in 6 months, right? Because a lot of people do that and it upsets the kids a lot. I gave up on a chance to change my life. I gave up on a chance to change my life and work at Atlantic Records because I said I have to finish this semester to get let go the next semester, and then the program collapsing in the year after that. Common trend. I started this out with saying I don't pretend to be anybody's savior, but that's a lie. That's why I always ask people, when I speak about things, do you think I'm just going off in a trail of nothing, or are you actually listening? Because I make sure to hit beats. I know where I'm going. The only question is do you want to take this journey with me? I've had some of the most fun times ever, and I stay so in the moment that people 10 years later will doubt that I've ever done anything because I didn't take a picture of it. I don't got a recording of it. Why don't you go ask these people? Was Marquise there? Yeah. Why he ain't being? He wanted to take the pictures. We didn't, because I like the experiences. The memories add to my ability to entertain, and not only that, but set a foundation for the possibility of life going forward after your worst moment. Because I've been there. I've been there. I've been there, and I'm trying to impart that, or I tried to impart that here. Because I think the one thing a lot of adults miss, and the reason why life looks so bleak outside of the uncontrollable factors, is that everybody kind of misses hanging out with their friends and not having it be something that requires planning. You still want that, damn, I popped out to the block at 12:30 because I knew my friends was going to be out there, and then we all went to the park and we did whatever, and then we came home. You don't have that time anymore, let alone you probably don't live close to anybody like that anymore. What are you two 30-year-olds doing in a park hanging out randomly like you're teenagers? When you live in a society or a world in which that's not valued anymore, so much so that after you did it, they took all the spaces away. So now teenagers don't even want to do that. And if you were to go back to that, it would look weird and feel weird in a place where the world doesn't even give you a green space or a community space to do that. You give up on it without even asking. Now you're really trying to lock into when I said earlier, self-inflicted trauma. You chose to age. Now some people be like, say, well, how do you choose to age? Well, that's when the conversation gets dark, don't you think? That's when we start to realize that this shit kind of fucked up. I've seen more death than I can handle. I've got so many stories. I got a random ass troll. And I know who the troll is, which it's kind of pathetic at this point, but like, just to give the credence to the whole thing, like, I got a troll of mine who said, I used to see you always post about 170 people dead and you made it all about me, me, me. Do the families know you're using them? Using them? Do you not have friends? I'm not the only one talking about these people. Like, to be so void in your life that you see somebody like me and you're like, yeah, that guy's full of shit. Random. Compared to all the stories that I've told you up until this point, that one thing right there is moot. Perception is reality. Perception is reality. I think my biggest issue is that I've been imparting that savior mentality on top of my audience. I speak from a level where you think you can connect with me, but the disconnect is in how greatly I push it forward and then don't put out enough content or don't have any conversations, not enough collabs. Everything has a desync point. And it hurts. It hurts. And that's kind of the point of this entire thing, is that I think for the first time in my life, I have to admit it hurts. I can't be engaging with this kind of stuff anymore because it will never resonate outside of those who are not afraid to approach that realm of thinking. To everybody else, it comes off preachy. To everyone else, it comes out self-aggrandizing. And to be honest with them, it's not their fault. They can only see what we love, that the 20-second clips or whatever. Cares, right? That isn't to say nobody cares. Let's make that certain. But in order for me to be where I need to be, I need to get over myself and realize that certain places are just not the places for me. And I think that's something maybe all of us, or maybe just me, have to think about. We are who we are. We are who we are, and I have always been this neurotic, I've got to achieve everything in the world or nothing matters. Everything has to be perfect. Everything's got to be laid down on the line because at some point, somewhere down the road, somebody's going to ask somebody, who's the guy? And if you don't look perfect from jump, people not going to look at you like that's the guy. You could have the greatest pen in the world. If you can't get 3 rounds out, you're not the guy. This man said he was the greatest creative visionary I ever seen, but I asked him to make a film for me in 60 seconds and he gave me some garbage. You're not the guy. That's what my first boss used to say to me. And it wasn't like wrong or anything. It's his language. But in certain situations, he used to be like, no, they don't ask you, they ask us. You're not the guy. And I started realizing the reason why you kept saying that is because I was becoming the guy without you allowing me to. See, built with my own hands. You don't think I'm the guy, but they do. Now we have an issue because you hold more power than they do, but they'll only come around if I'm there. So now we're in an influx of growing up and learning, hey, maybe sometimes things just got to fall naturally the way that they do. Not me. I put myself and committed to spaces in which people above me thought otherwise. I found myself on Twitch. Same thing. Same thing. Besides maybe the bottom, every Twitch streamer I've ever contacted or been in contact with, every person who picked up streaming because maybe I inspired them or something, all of them higher viewerships, more paid. Not even a mention of me. That's the way I wanted it at the start. People say, don't compare your success to other people's successes. Little hard when you see your community members and other people's chats bringing up other people and bringing other people into their communities and not here. But that's the name of the game. I don't want to self-analyze every single person that comes in here. You're here now, or you're here before, you're here then, or you're here after. Who gives a shit? The longer it goes, however, the less time I have, because eventually this has to go too. Nobody wants to sit there and watch a dying, bleeding show now. Shout out you, Game of Thrones. Shout out you, The Walking Dead, Until the Ones Who Live, which is actually type popping. So I've been left with a question. The question has always been, what do you want? Do you want a certain number of subscribers? Do you want a certain number of chatters? Do you want a certain income? What do you want? I want the amount of work that I put in to something to finally hit the heights that it was meant to. Because it's really great when something of mine leaves my core audience and I'll get this like day wave of, oh, you really do that. And it's like, yeah, I did that in 2012 and I've been screaming it. I'm glad you're on board now, but holy shit, did it take you a long time? And maybe now you're in a position not to support me or support the endeavor like you could have 10 years ago. Nobody's fault. Self-inflicted. This self-infliction goes now back to the final place we will go in the past, 2020. I remember when I wanted to get one video out on washing your hands because I was seeing people complaining about having to wash their hands 3-4 times during when the COVID started. Video pops off. Everybody's like, yo, you should do this. I didn't know you was funny on cam. Like, you should do this. My heart started to swell. People were acknowledging that like my natural personality on camera was working. Like, yeah, this don't feel like that forced shit you used to do. And we used to not seeing you on the camera, usually record the bands. You don't be on the camera, you be making the music videos. You be making the Facebook videos, the Instagram videos, the TikToks. I make the TikToks. So to see me there and for me to cut up a video, I hypercut it too. I did it like a Mr. Beast video, super hypercut by hand. Wash your, I still remember, I made a cut in the middle of the music and I said, wash your nasty ass hands. Something as simple as that. And I went through it and I remember I didn't have no hair. I was fresh shaven. And I was just talking to the side of a camera that I put up right next to the desk at the desktop. And and I felt so nervous putting it out. But at the same time, I was like, this shit light work for me. Plus, it's not like mad people are going to see it. Mad people saw it. So I said, if that one gets you, maybe I'll just use a video format to get my ideas off instead of having, you know, maybe type them out, be on somebody's podcast or whatever. And around that time as well, I got hit up by a couple friends of mine to be on their podcast. It's supposed to be a funny podcast, blah, blah, blah. You know me, I did my thing. We went into some deep topics and they were like, yo, we got to definitely do this again. We need a part 2 because this shit was crazy. Whether they got off topic, there was never a part 2. Still talk to me though, but once it was at that point, there were levels. there were clear and obvious levels in communication. I don't pretend to have the answers. I don't pretend to be anybody other than myself. If my energy is so big in that room, then that's your problem to deal with. Here, however, my energy being that is something I have to deal with. And that's what's hard about this. Is that I'm going to burn myself at both ends of the candle. And barely anybody will hear it. But Lord, if I get into a game of Tekken with K-Wiss, 94 viewers. Okay, now what do you do with them? They're all here for Tekken, but you don't do Tekken. But you do, but not all the time. So when you play Tekken, those 94 will come. So you're going to have to do that if you want the 94. I thought that's what you wanted. Paradoxes. The infinite stairs only work if you look at them in one direction. I don't know how far and wide this message will reach, but I decided to do this because I need to take a step back and understand who I am and what I want out of this broadcasting thing before I can commit to saying goodnight on a dream of mine. I really think sometimes, like, there will be portions of the day where I got it all together, and there's some parts where it's just not there. And I thought that by being that vulnerable person and approaching this from both directions, you know, days that are on fire and we got plenty of shit planned and I got FD on the stream, shit lit. The days where I don't and I'm feeling down and I don't want to stream, but I want to be there in case of an opportunity. So we just chill out and listen to music and smoke, and maybe I eat and we just talk. I'm doing open calls. Who want to come in and get some advice about their life, whatever. I did all of that. I did all of that with the 1 viewer, the 2 viewers, the 3 viewers, the 4 viewers, the 5 viewers, 6 viewers, 7 viewers, the 8, the 9s, the 10s. Hell, I'm doing it right now and I got 134 motherfuckers in here. I'm never going to stop. And that means that I have to weigh in and value. Is that going to get me where I want to be? And who knows? For all I know, the answer in the collab of my dreams is going to call me tomorrow morning. And this whole speech will be wrapped up in a bow. But if I didn't say it to you, would you know I was feeling it? If I didn't tell you in the longest way possible how I was feeling, would you know? I just get the feeling. Because perception is reality. And I'm burning myself at both ends of the candle very, very fast. And that's just something I'm going to have to deal with. So if you are along for this ride, I don't think I can offer you a seat, an exit at this point. Because it's got to be about me here, right now, and here. I have to be selfish and say I have to eclipse everybody. And that means eating up the possible audience for so many people who deserve it. I get that. Trust me. I know there's niggas putting in work right now, talking the same talk. Trust me, this ain't unique. But they're not me. And they're not you. So if we're going to walk until we die. because we are the Walking Dead.